I think that's just right. It's good to see you again, everyone. I have a quick one here. I feel pretty confident, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm going the right direction with this. So, I'm pregnant, and kind of bouncing off David's question just right before the break. I'm feeling very good now, and have feeling for the words here. I'm feeling much more in alignment now that I'm back listening to what you're saying today and yesterday too with my friends. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting off track. So what I'm trying to say is ask about is that if I'm out of the vortex and my baby can feel that, because I know you guys have talked about that they feel vibration. But when I think about, that they're feeling my out of the vortex vibration, that really doesn't feel good. And I've come to the conclusion that they must have to take care of their own they have to take care of their own happiness, be responsible for their own happiness. And in that way, do I need to be so concerned about where I am for them?
Well, you will not know anyone more in the vortex than someone in your belly. In other words, that is an in the vortex experience. It's an in the vortex experience. And in the same way that you can't drag Abraham out of the vortex, you cannot drag your baby out either. In other words,
I feel that.
And so, but it is interesting that you will tend to the vortex for your baby when you might not do it for yourself. That's an interesting thing. In other words, it's true of a lot of people. You care about others often more than you do about yourself. And
well, I feel like before I was pregnant, I felt like I would listen to Abraham all the time. I felt like I was mostly in the vortex. And since I've been pregnant, it's been a roller coaster. And
well, just think about the kinds of thoughts that you're thinking. In other words, you're having more guarded thoughts, you're having more protective thoughts, you're questioning what your life will be like. In other words, you're thinking about the changes, you're worried a little bit about some loss of freedom. In other words, there are some things that you're pondering that you weren't, that the pregnancy is activating within you that just weren't active before. But you have plenty of time to work your way through those. And even if you don't work your way through those, even before the birth of your baby, you have a lifetime to work through them. In other words, you don't have to get it all figured out. What you really want to do is just feel as good as you can feel right now, because right now is all you've got. But this pregnancy, this is an interesting thing. We had a conversation with a woman who had been wanting to get pregnant for a while and finally was. And it led to a wonderful discussion about, because she'd been yearning for it, and now she is pregnant. Now she is not feeling lack of baby anymore because she's 4 months pregnant, and so there's no lack of baby. And the analogy we sprung off of it was delightful to do, is that in the same way that you are pregnant with your baby, the vortex is pregnant with all of the things that you want. In other words, in the sense that the baby hasn't been born into manifestation yet, in full functioning, I get to play with this baby form. That's true of a lot of what's in your vortex too. It's an emotional thing, it's a feeling thing, it's a vibrational thing, but it has not yet manifested. And so, in the same way that you are caring about tending to this baby, we would like all of you to care about tending to your relationship with your vortex. In other words, it's like you're saying, I want to create this perfect haven for the well-being of this child within me. And we would like all of you to have the same attitude. Relative to the vortex, I want to make sure that I'm as close to alignment with what's in my vortex as possible. It's a wonderful way of looking at all things that you want. All is well with you.